we're hunting behind the pace truck several laps today, and making your pit stop at the right time. So if it does come down to that, where you are as close to the front as possible, if not leading, I think it's going to play a lot to who might win it. And we, like I said, we could see an unexpected winner. But if it does hold sway, and again, that's a big if, I think Power's the guy to beat, but I would not be surprised if we have a surprise name up there, maybe even like an Ed Carpenter or Scott Dixon that steals the show by just keeping their nose clean.
Well, we have 33 cars that are entered into the virtual race, the Chevrolet 275 up at the Michigan International Speedway. Let's just kind of go through some of these drivers. Let's get your thoughts on what again, we're still talking about the virtual world, so it's a new normal. So our conversations are a little bit different. So let's just kind of just randomly go through some of these well-known drivers. Let's talk a little bit about Joseph Newgarden and Team Penske in the Chevy.
Still learning the tricks right now, but I think he's making progress where it needs to be. I don't know how much he's got in terms of oval track testing, though, so I'll be curious to see how he plays out there. But if he, shows pace in the action, and again, twitch.tv, if you check out the best page, I think, for twitch.tv is S. McLaughlin 93, because not only does it have Scott's feed, but it also has a live leaderboard and also a track map to show where everyone is at one time. So if you don't have access to the NBCSN broadcast, I suggest going to that page, because that'll give you the best coverage, I think, of anything that's out there. And then I think Newgarden certainly is a threat. Like I said, McLaughlin's still raw, but I think he could be a potential factor. But I think the big question, like I wrote in my preview at Speedway Digest last night, how's Dale Earnhardt Jr. going to fare? I don't think he's going to be as raw as, say, a Jimmy Johnson was at the two events at the Glen in Alabama. But at the same time, I would be very surprised if he's a challenger. But if he finishes in the top half of the field or even the top 10, I would not be surprised.
You mentioned Dale Earnhardt Jr. It's kind of weird seeing him in an IndyCar setup, but what are your thoughts about Dale Earnhardt Jr.?
Well, he's trying to, get through, like we all are, the fact that we don't have racing. And I don't think he wants to put himself at risk in a real full-time ride again. So this is the next best thing. And like I said, if these guys have the guts and the willingness to do this, bring them in. We'll see how they do.
Sebastian Bourdais. Just kind of going through the list here.
It's been raw in the first events. It just has really struggled with this format. Of course, not being in, cahoots with the Foyt team to start with anyway, it doesn't help his case. And I don't know if even he was on the simulator at all prior to these events being announced. So he's still learning things. I'd say if there is a Foyt driver that has a potential threat, and maybe it's still a long shot, I've liked what I've seen from Dalton Kellett. He's gotten, I think, a raw deal a couple times where he's been taken out in accidents and not of his own doing at both the Glen and Alabama. So if you're looking for maybe one of those upset picks, the Canadian Dalton Kellett in the 41, I think could also be a threat today.
Scott Dixon.
Learning as far as it goes right now. I'll be curious to see how he compares to, I think he'll easily outrun his teammate, Marcus Ericsson, who has struggled in the first two rounds. I don't know if he'll be able to keep up with Rosenqvist. But again, Rosenqvist also struggled on the ovals in real life last year. So even I think the Swede Rosenqvist has a lot to prove on when we get to Michigan today.
GK, Tony Kanaan.
If Tony's going to find a way to make an impact in these iRacing events, today would be the race, unless there's another oval that's the dream track at the end of this 6, which could be extended, of course, if they extend the cancellations because of the pandemic. But I'd say if this is the only oval race, this is the best chance I think TK has for getting a result.
Let's talk a little bit about Award.
Certainly, he's not in the greatest of views for him after, the incidents he had at the test event. I think he got the message at Alabama, kept his nose clean. Granted, he wasn't a factor. Oliver Askew had the top 5 at the Glen, got involved in that first lap crash that really, I think, ruined the day for a lot of people. Askew was one of them. I'll be curious, though, to see what Wickens does. He had an outstanding drive, finished in the top half of the field, top 10 at Alabama last week. I think the momentum's riding with him, and if he's able to steal another top 5, I would not be in least bit surprised. I think that there is one guy that is more excited about running these cars than anybody right now. Robert Wickens has to be that guy.
Graham Rahal makes his first appearance in the I Series this week. What are your thoughts?
I believe he was in the first 2. Keep in mind, though, on a similar real-life track last time they ran at Auto Club, he won that race. Now, granted, there is not quite a perfect match in the transfer to that, and obviously the cars are different now, but certainly could drive on a track like this. And, again, he's one of those conservative drivers that knows when to stay out of trouble. So if he can keep his nose clean, I think he's another potential factor.
I lost my list. James Davison.
I think right now the emotion factor, I think, really hurt James at the test event in Indianapolis. I think he was most vocal. Even you thought Will Power was vocal last weekend. James was even more on the vocal side. I think the mental game needs to be controlled a little bit for James. If he can get his act and his wits about himself this week, he could be a factor. Because I think he's got more raw talent than I think most people give him credit for. But I think it's between the ears where James has his problems right now. And putting his mind set up and in the right frame of mind, I think is going to be key to getting a result from him today.
Let's talk a little bit about NASCAR. NASCAR obviously is really kind of the racing team series that brought this iRacing to the world into really the way we're watching it now. Let's talk a little bit about NASCAR, where they're at right now, and what are we looking at with the NASCAR world. eNASCAR maybe is what they're calling it.
I don't believe there's an event this weekend. At least I haven't seen one on the list.
I don't think there is.
The next time they run is next week, and I think it was Richmond, but I don't know that for sure.
Yeah. We also know that Flossie Johnson, very well known as the first lady of NASCAR, guys. What are your thoughts on that?
Another member that I think is just a key member, just like her husband Junior was, as far as being involved with it. I mean, DW certainly thought highly of Flossie, and but again, we've lost a lot of big name people. I heard Ed Kracz say that we lost Tom Dempsey, the Hall of Fame, the superstar kicker. I think honestly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as far as pro football is concerned. So yeah, it's a tough time, but again, that's what I got to say. You got to be careful with this before we get back up and going full time with all these sports.
Talking with Matthew Embury, WSBT up in South Bend, our official IndyCar contributor. Matthew, what do you think? How do you think this is going to play out? Because as a sports fan, I know that we need our fix, but we'll see how it all comes together. But when the dominoes start opening up, and there's been talks about the MLB playing doubleheaders and just staying in the state of Arizona. There's been other different talks of different sports in the way they're doing things. The other thing that we saw yesterday, the XFL has completely canceled their season, laid off most of their staff, and has no plans to return next year, which is unfortunate because I thought that they got off to a good start, much better than they did last time. But it appears that the XFL is gone for good.
Oh, I think the thing is, though, the fact that they're still running WWE events and broadcasts, I think tells me that McMahon has his mindset that that's the way he's going to make his money, not with waiting around until the XFL is back up and going at this point. So I think right now this was more of a money decision with the McMahons and Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and all these guys that they could make the most money keeping the WWE going, even without the fans. As opposed to waiting it out and bleeding money, waiting on if and when the XFL would get back up and going, which probably would have been next year anyway, because the NFL, I don't think being in direct competition with the NFL would have done them any good anyway. But I think right now money talks, especially with the McMahons and their job, and that's why they keep the WWE going. It's been so successful, is turning a profit, and they can turn a profit with that event even without the fans. I mean, I think they said, I read somewhere, they said WrestleMania 36 this past weekend was the most watched WrestleMania ever for that industry. And that says a lot.
Yeah, it does. But I guess it also, we got to relate to that fact that there's no other sports on and people are watching it. We'll see. I'm not a WWE fan per se. I don't watch a lot of that. But yeah, go ahead. What'd you say?
I got sucked into it last night. I'll admit it.
It's easy to get sucked into a lot of stuff. Have you got sucked into any of these binging shows? I mean, I'm all over the board, but my most recent one that I'm on is Amish Mafia. Are you binging on any shows?
A lot of YouTube stuff and a lot of stuff on Antenna TV. I watched a lot of Cagney and Lacey, Archie Bunker's Plays, Three's Company, Cold Case. Oh. So those I've been here, there, and everywhere. So
yeah, I like it. I mean, Antenna TV.
You're able to access all these obscure channels, the .2s and .3s, and there's actually pretty good stuff on some of those channels.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Antenna TV. I'm a big fan of the classic television shows. That's for sure. Been known to watch Andy Griffith, Beverly Hillbillies, and all those. Matthew Embury, WSBT up in South Bend. Thank you for joining us here at Podcast Overtime. We're going to be doing our mock draft next week. You're more than welcome to join us. We're going to try to push this out for 2 hours next week and get everybody on deck. So if you want to join the mock draft next week, you can. We won't be talking racing next week, but you're more than welcome. But what are your thoughts on we were talking about this earlier? In the first two to go are going to be quarterbacks, and we just feel like Joe Burrow is definitely going to go to the Bengals. There's no way that they're going to get rid of that pick, and so the Dolphins want Tua so bad they traded all the way up from 5 to 2 with the Redskins, so that it looks like they're just pretty much locked in with Tua, and they're going to be doing the virtual draft. So, what are your thoughts on the upcoming draft in 2 weeks?
Well, I think that just says what people don't want to deal with, and that's Daniel Snyder at Washington. I think that's why they're almost stuck with the idea they're going to have to start Dwayne Haskins as their starter, because you just don't have the say and you really don't have the, control. I think Dallas is going to start having that problem the longer Jerry Jones has complete control of everything there, and it's the same way in Washington with Daniel Snyder. And until that changes, I think you're going to see both of those franchises flounder, and dare I say maybe the level that the Bengals have with Mike Brown running everything there too.
Matthew Embury, where can people find your work and masterpieces, sir?
MatTembury. And again, I know a lot of people did not like my comments with Conor Daily. You're free to your opinion, but please, guys, you use GIFs or you use bad language to communicate to me, I will not return your answers. But I am willing to defend myself as I did last night and even this morning. But again, watch the language, please.
All right, buddy. We'll talk with you soon and have yourself a good week on the Corona Island.
Happy Easter, Tom.
You too, buddy. Matthew Embury joins us. Thank you guys for joining us. We are going to have to wrap it up, call it a day, as we get back and jump onto our Corona Island. So glad that you guys are with us. Make sure you follow us on T-Balance and Facebook as well. Just search The Balance. And you can follow us there and just, hey, hang out with us. We're going to get through this on the other side. I promise you. This is not the end of the world. Remember, don't drink and drive. I didn't cool. I'm out of here, deuces.
Join us next week for The Balance. In the meantime, check us out on Twitter, T-Balance, or Facebook, The Balance, or online at